All right, Michigan fans, this is a recruitment you need to know. But first, happy Championship Monday as Michigan's men's hoop gets set to take on UConn tonight for all the marbles. The Wolverines just brought in a big-time playmaker to campus, and this one could have major impact on the future of the Michigan offense. But before we jump in, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything here on Wolverines Daily. Let's get into it. The Burrow Watch is on. Michigan football is not wasting any time. They are making some noise on the recruiting trail, and this one is big. The Wolverines are hosting one of the top wide receivers in the 2027 class, Quentin Burrell out of Chicago's Mount Carmel. And this is a name Michigan Wolverines fans need to pay close attention to. We're talking about a 6'2", 195-pound playmaker, elite production, nearly 2,400 yards receiving, and 34 touchdowns over the past 2 years. That's not potential. That is proven dominance, which could add another flavor to Michigan's wide receiver core and a big playmaker on the outside. And here's where this stands out. This isn't just a casual visit. He's back on campus, spending time with the wide receivers, wide receiver coach Micah Simon, Marquise Hagans, and that tells you everything that this is a full court press. Now, let's be real. Notre Dame is a team to beat right now. There's already a prediction for the Irish, and they're predicting Burrell to Notre Dame. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. Michigan is building something right now, not just on the field, but in recruiting. You saw it last week hosting 5-star defensive tackle Marcus Fekatu, and now they're following it up with another elite target. That's not coincidence. That's a strategy. And I really believe the 2027 class is really starting to heat up. Now, when you combine that with what we're hearing out of spring ball, a wide receiver room that's getting deeper, more explosive, more competitiveness. We heard from a lot of players. We heard from the defensive backs. They are being challenged day in and day out. And they said this wide receiver core has a chance to be elite. That matters, because recruits like Burrell aren't just looking at playing time. They're looking at development. They're looking at fit. They're looking at opportunity. And if Michigan can get and show him a future in a dynamic, evolving offense, this recruitment can get very interesting very, very quickly. So keep your eye on this one, because Burrell isn't just another recruit. He's the kind of player that can change a class and maybe even the future of Michigan's offense, which I think will be huge for the Wolverines moving forward. Something is changing on the defensive side of the ball in Ann Arbor. It might be flying under the radar, because everyone's talking about the offense right now, but don't get this twisted. In spring ball, the defense is always ahead of the offense, because right now, everybody's talking about the offense, but Michigan's defense might be evolving into something dangerous here come fall. New defensive coordinator, Jay Hill, I talked about. He's putting a stamp on this unit, and according to the players, it's not the same defense that we've seen the last few years. There will be some similarities to what Jesse Minter did. A lot of movement, a lot of disguises. They're going to keep offenses guessing. They're going to rotate a lot of personnel in and out. But here's where I think the difference is going to be known right out of the gate. This defense is attacking from the back end. We're talking about defensive backs moving all over the field. Corners like Zeke Berry, Jair Hill are lining up in multiple spots. You're going to see more disguising coverages, which will create confusion for quarterbacks. I think you're going to see a lot of zone blitz schemes. I think you're going to see a lot of man coverage, a lot of man blitz schemes, which will be huge. To be able to mix and match with a lot of different personnel groups, I think will be really big for Michigan and will help them get off the field on third down, which is where they struggled last year. When your corners are versatile, that opens up everything on the back end. We can blitz more. They can get after the quarterback. I think Michigan's going to set the edge. And that's not just a coach speaking. That's veterans on this group telling you that the scheme is different and this scheme is going to be dangerous if they can execute. The defense is holding up their end on spring ball. Again, I think the offense is getting a lot of the hype. I think they should. Bryce Underwood's progressing. The wide receiver core looks strong. They're going to have a strong run game. The offensive line should be the strength of this team come fall. So when you put all that together, that offense could be something, but don't overlook this defense. You got experience backing guys like Barry Hill and Rod Moore. You add in transfers like Smith Snowden, Chris Bracey, and then you've got these young guys that are pushing for spots every single day. And I think that is absolutely huge. When the young guys can come in and push the veterans, it only makes the team that much stronger. Barry even said it. You're no longer guaranteed any spots. You need to compete. That's the edge, and that's what builds elite defenses. And I think here's the big picture for me. If the offense becomes what people expect, and I think everybody's going to put it in with the playmakers this year that Bryce didn't have last year, and this defense becomes aggressive, more versatile, and more unpredictable, now you're just not talking about a good team. You're talking about a team that if they can make the playoffs with a chance to win the Big Ten and get into the playoffs, this could be a championship elite defense that might be transforming here at Michigan. And I think that could be really huge heading into camp in the upcoming season. Right now in Ann Arbor, you can feel it. There's energy, there's momentum, there's belief, but here's the twist. It's not just coming from the football field, it's coming from the hardwood. Michigan basketball is on an absolute tear right now. Final Four run, they've been blowing teams out. They were impressive against Arizona. And standing there watching, Kyle Whittingham came on and he had some great quotes for Wolverine fans. He made a promise, and this is a quote, and I'm going to read this verbatim. We're going to make you proud of the football team as well. That's not just a quote, that's a message. Because let's be real, Michigan football is in a transition mode right now. Post-2023 championship, post-coaching changes, questions, uncertainty, all these expectations. But what Whittingham sees right now is a blueprint. And I really think when you look at what Dusty May's done with the basketball program is exactly what the football program is going to try to become again. And you think about it, in just 2 years, the basketball program was struggling, 8 wins, no identity. Now, Big Ten champs, Final Four, national championship contender. That's not a rebuild, that's transformation. And Whittingham believes that he can do the same thing on the football side. He's already making really big moves. He's locking in elite talent like Bryce, bringing in offensive coordinator Jason Beck, building a system that's rooted in physicality like the old Michigan teams that we've seen in the past. Physical, hard-nosed football teams, because there's one thing that Whittingham stands for and all his teams at Utah, and that is toughness. Toughness, grit, execution, confidence. So here's the real question I have. If you're watching this live or you're watching it on a replay, here's the question I have. Can Michigan football follow the same script? Because if they do, if they tap into the same culture, the same edge, this isn't just going to be a transition period for Michigan. This is the beginning of something big. And if Whittingham delivers in that promise, Michigan might be in this thing for the long haul, and they might just be reloading. For Kyle Whittingham, who many think that this could just be a temporary gig for a short term, you could see Kyle Whittingham at Michigan for the next 10 years or so. Michigan basketball fans can finally exhale. Going into tonight's national championship game, for now, Dusty May came on and said he's not going anywhere. And this is according to Pete Thamel. May has informed the university he will not pursue other college coaching jobs this off season. There's been a huge coaching carousel with the North Carolina job open. Dusty May's name was mentioned for this job amongst other guys. And even when it gets things better in Ann Arbor, I'll say this. He's expected back for next season. They're already working on a contract extension, a raise that could put him among some of the highest paid coaches in the country. We're talking about potentially $7.5 million range, right up there with Tommy Lloyd, who he just signed an extension to, saying he's not interested in the Michigan job. So in just 2 seasons, May has completely flipped this program. He took a team that won just 8 games under Juwan Howard and turned it into an absolute powerhouse. Year 1, 27 wins. Big Ten tournament title, Sweet 16 run. Year 2, school record 36 wins. Now Michigan is on the elite verge of winning a national championship, and they are a 7.5-point favorites against UConn and Dan Hurley tonight. Don't overlook UConn. Don't overlook them. They play hard for Hurley. But I think if Michigan plays the way they're capable of tonight, one shining moment, I think Dusty May and this Michigan team cut the nuts down and win a national championship. And this team puts their name in history as one of the greatest Michigan teams of all time. And that's not just success, that's program transformation. And yes, Dusty May returns for Michigan, signs that contract extension, and continues to build one of the elite programs in college basketball. So that's today's Wolverines Daily. I'm your coach, Rocky Corigliano. Thanks for being part of the Michigan football conversation. Make sure to hit subscribe, share the show with fellow Wolverine fans, and remember, championship culture never takes a day off. Go Blue.